Hello, my name is Henri Lachapelle, and I am going to read to you from my journal, which I am calling A Year in Fulham. I am 38 years old, from Aix-le-Matin in Auvergne, and this is the memoir of my sojourn among the Anglo-Saxons of Fulham in London. I am not a writer, merely an ordinary fellow whom circumstances have caused to move across the Channel. The biggest of these circumstances to which I refer is Anita, my Anglo-Saxon and lady wife. Of her you will receive in due course a good earful, as indeed do I myself most mornings. But let us not leap into the future. First things first, as they are in the habit of saying down the North End Road. It was with my friend and co-worker Alain that the idea of a journey was first promulgated. He and I ran the local cinema in Aix-le-Matin. To say that our audiences were disappointing would not be to exaggerate. One night, when we were showing Rattle and Hum, a music film concerning the Irish group U2, there was not a single person to watch, and it was raining cats and dogs outside. We had a conference, at which Alain proposed to me and suggested a plan. "The cinema is our life, am I not right?" he said. "Indeed it is, Alain," I replied. "Well," he continued, "if the cinema is to survive in France, and more especially our little cinema, Le Trou de Truffaut, here in Aix, then we must act, and act decisively." The upshot of our deliberations was that I was to represent Le Trou de Truffaut at the Cannes Film Festival, no less. I would make important contacts with producers and distributors with a view to boosting the image of our cinema, and who knows, perhaps having a premiere or two. But life, as is so often the case, had her own plans, and the visit to Cannes was not to be. On the very morning of my intended departure, dressed in a new blue serge suit especially bought for the trip, I learnt that lorry drivers had blockaded the roads leading south. There was no less of a hiccup on the railways. In short, all means of transport appropriate to my journey were blocked. Meanwhile, and despite much promotional activity, such as half-price tickets for children, pregnant ladies, and amputees of both world wars, our audiences at Le Trou continued to dwindle down. The situation was growing desperate, although we did achieve some success with Terminator 2, particularly, and this somewhat surprised me, among the amputees. Another conference was convened. Tomorrow we will convene another conference. The time has arrived for me to introduce you to my dear mother. You would be well advised beforehand to clean your shoes and comb your hair. Not that my dear mother is particularly strict, rather that she likes things to be just so, and is perhaps a little set in her ways. Albertine Eugénie Lachapelle, to give her full name, is a pillar of the Aix community. Indeed, you might even say that she is the fulcrum upon which society in our little village pivots. Married for 41 years to my late father, the former mayor of Aix-le-Matin, she has survived 2 world wars, during the second of which she was obliged to keep house for the officers of a panzer regiment. She is chief warden of the Church of Our Lady of Sorrows, and finally, but by no means of least importance, she is the guardian of the formula, by which I mean she keeps the official and time-honoured recipe for our local cheese, Le Bleu d'Aix. Life at Le Creuset, our comfortable villa on the outskirts of Aix, has a definite pattern. "Is that you, Henri, chéri?" my dear mother is in the habit of saying on my return. "No, it is Maréchal Ney, fresh from the atrocities of the Russian campaign," is my usual reply, although just lately I have taken to saying on occasions, "No, maman, it is Arnold Schwarzenegger," but she finds this a little confusing. I then embrace my dear mother, who says, "You must excuse me unless you have pressing tidings, or your dinner will be a catastrophe." I go to my room on the first floor, where I change into my house shoes and wash my hands. 15 minutes later, precisely, the electric gong summons me to the dining room. The electric gong is a labor-saving device I acquired by mail order to celebrate her 75th birthday. I walk downstairs, and generally remark upon entering the dining room, "What a smell, mother dear! You have surely surpassed yourself this evening in the kitchen." "Sit down now before your soup becomes cold," she replies. Mother never dines with me unless we have company, which is to say on Thursdays when Father Joseph drops by. "It would be impossible," she says. "But quite why it is possible for her to dine à trois on Thursdays, but never à deux for the remainder of the week with me, I do not fully understand." While I eat, she moves back and forth to the kitchen, or hovers behind me like a waiter. I suspect the 11th Leipzig Panzer Corps has something to answer for here. Tonight, though, the pattern is broken. I enter the house and embrace my dear mother. "You must excuse me unless you have pressing tidings, or your dinner will be a catastrophe," she says. Mother dear, I do have pressing tidings," I reply. "Well, go up to your room, wash your hands, and we'll discuss it at table." "But, mother dear, these are very pressing tidings." "Tidings can wait. Your dinner cannot. Now, up to your room immediately, you naughty monkey." After I have consumed a good helping of cheese, naturally enough le bleu d'Aix, and commented approvingly upon its qualities, my dear mother finally consents to hear my news. Does she imagine, I have been wondering over dinner, that I have met a nice girl and would like to invite her to the villa? Mother replaces the last of the cutlery in the sideboard. She sits down in her chair across the table and pierces me with her bespectacled gaze. "Now," she says, "it is assuredly not a woman, therefore it must be a business affair you wish to discuss." "Just a moment, mother dear," I put in. "How do you know it is not a woman I wish to discuss?" "Because there has been no stranger in Aix for 2 months, since the departure of the dangerous car-driving circus." "But it might be a local girl." "Nonsense! There is no such person. Now, what of the cinema?" Reading back over this journal, I realize that so far everything has been in a bit of a mad rush. Now we are arrived in Fulham, I will try to slow the pace a little, and my first intention is to take you for a leisurely walk around the streets of my new home, so that we can both get our bearings. Napier Mansions is in Napier Road, and when I got down to the street, I firstly could not believe I was in the heart of a bustling city of, I believe, some 7 million souls. The only one of these souls visible to me now was a child of 10 years old placing a bottle of milk beside someone's doorway. Still standing in my own doorway, I followed him with my eyes as he walked to a curious vehicle full of milk bottles, grabbed a couple more, and walked to place them beside another house. I am naturally familiar with the reputation of England's Iron Lady, Mrs. Thatcher, for having rekindled the capitalistic work ethic among the British, but even so, to entrust the distribution of all this milk to one so small struck me as a little harsh. Did he not have a school to go to, this urchin? Was he officially qualified to drive the milk distribution machine? Perhaps it had pedals. It was not just the absence of people that made me feel